Mario Kart Wii. Some people love it, others not so much, but you can't deny the fact that it's one of the most influential entries in this long-lasting franchise, and one of its greatest achievements is its track selection, which has stood the test of time. But which tracks deserve the love that they receive, and which ones should be thrown into a big bin? Well, that's what we're about to find out, so let's just get this ranking started. 32. Mario Circuit 3. This track is so uninteresting and bland. I'm not even going to talk in depth about it. I mean, look at it. What do you see? I see nothing. And you probably do as well. It basically has no replayability, and it isn't even particularly pleasant to look at. And why is this in the Lightning Cup? This doesn't deserve to be in the Shell Cup, let alone the Lightning Cup. And the worst part about this track is that it's so boring. This track just makes me want to go to sleep. And if you suffer insomnia, well, do I have the solution for you? 31. Luigi Circuit. Luigi Circuit is a fine enough beginner track. It's basic, but serves its purpose quite well. It teaches the player how the rest of the game will look like. It's got this turn where there's a bunch of boost panels, and you can't forget about the Luigi statue. Other than that, it really doesn't have anything else to offer. 30. Mario Raceway N64. This track has a lot of off-road shortcut possibilities, and it's got this tube where you can trick off. There's a couple of hills that can be used as shortcuts, lots of ramps and piranha plants to avoid, but other than that, not much else. Plus, it could be worse. Much worse. 29. Sherbet Land. I normally like snow/ice tracks. They're really pleasing to look, but Sherbet Land looks repetitive, and the physics are kind of annoying, not gonna lie. But there is a section in the cave, and there's lots of penguins to yield, and this jump is okay, I guess. Though jumping over the cracks on the edges of the road is very exhilarating if done correctly. 28. Desert Hills. Does this track deserve the hate that some individuals have given it in the past? No, but I mean, it's not great. The zigzag section is the only notable part of the track. The rest is okay, like the pokey section. And you can also trick off the sand dunes. However, there are definitely other better desert tracks in this series and this game. 27. Mario Circuit. Another boring circuit track with Mario's name plastered all over it. It suffers the same issues as some other circuit tracks, like being painfully flat and slow to drive around and being very generic. Although this one does have really detailed backgrounds and a hidden shortcut right next to the rabbit chain jump. And this is also the track where the trophy celebration takes place, so that's okay, I guess. 26. DK Jungle Parkway. DK has got some fantastic courses with his name, but this one's a bit dodgy. It's got a massive cave which can be used for last second victories in the final lap, and this skinny bridge can be used for trolling. However, this track really overstays its welcome due to the lengthy straightaways in the jungle that drag this track down to a crawl. But it gets saved from D-tier because of this jump. 25. GCN Mario Circuit. If I had a nickel for every time a below average circuit track was in this game named after Mario, I would have 4. That's the same amount of Mario Circuits as Mario Kart 8, including the booster course part, in a game with 2/3 less the amount of tracks as that game. It's ludicrous! And yes, I'm counting N64 as a circuit track. You can't make me. Anyways, you need to avoid the chomp and then go through a tunnel to then avoid some piranha plants, and then you get to trick off these mounds on the ground while avoiding some goombas. Now this is the way to do a circuit track. 24. Peach Beach. This is the Luigi Circuit of the Retro Cup selection. It's the second beginner track here, but stuff actually happens in this one, like having to avoid getting caught by the rising tides and the cataquacks roaming around the beach. Also, if you have any boost items, you can boost right through the water. And there's also some ramps that can be taken into other secondary routes. And at the end, there's this big roundabout on the left with absolutely no purpose. But hey, it's there if you want to goof around. 23. Yoshi Falls. Its map is very simple. You drive around a luscious nature reserve type area. You basically drive through a big circle. There's some falls that you can drive into to collect item boxes and go faster, but at the same time you need to avoid getting pushed down the valley into the pool of water below. But you can also drive through the wooden bridges and trick or boost off of them. Visually, it's very pleasing, I might say. 22. Shy Guy Beach. This one you go through a beach that's being bombarded, and you have to jump over the panels to avoid touching the water, which will slow you down and eventually kill you. And you have to avoid the crabs layered around the track, and you've got bombings, but none of it feels convoluted or too much. 21. Moo Moo Meadows. What a relaxing track this is. It's not a very involved track, and it's quite easy, but the level design isn't the reason for it being all the way up here. Nah. It's the vibes. The vibes are on point here. You get to drive in this huge farm and avoid the cows. The more laps you complete, the more cows accumulate in the middle of the road, making it more difficult to traverse per lap. The terrain is slightly uneven and includes ramps to trick off. It's one of the most charming tracks in the game, and it's never not fun to go through. 20. Ghost Valley 2. This track is quite simple. You go through a spooky bridge up of a haunted valley. But what I like about this track is its speedrun potential it has. It's very fast paced and never becomes boring. I like that the walls that prevent you from falling just drop dead into the abyss, leaving the area exposed afterwards. Everything just flows naturally. And unlike Mario Circuit, it has an interesting theme. It's a no bullshit type track. 19. Rumble Volcano. The concept of this track is absolutely amazing. The more time you complete each lap, the more pieces of the track fall into the lava and disappear. This makes the track so much harder than it would be otherwise. However, sometimes this gimmick completely you and you can't do anything about it. Also, I don't know about you, but I honestly don't like how the track looks visually or artistically. It reminds me a bit too much of New Super Mario Bros. However, I cannot deny this track is good. Not fantastic, but good. 18. UBA Bowser Castle 3. For a Bowser Castle track, the colour scheme is awfully blue, but I dig this. In fact, it makes it look very outstanding. The track design contains very sharp 90-degree turns which are challenging to get through. You've got to avoid the pitfalls, lava bubbles and thwomps. This track can feel like a gauntlet at times, but it's never unfair. The track is also optimal for speedrunning due to its crazy shortcuts, and overall it's very fun to go through, even if it's flat. 17. Wario's Gold Mine. This is probably the most divisive track in the game. Some people adore it, others can't stand its sorry arse. Me, I like it. The setting is phenomenal. Going through the intricate mining extraction site is such a creative idea, and that's probably something this game excels at in general. Wacky settings that shouldn't work, but the design itself is very wavy and erratic, which can sometimes be a detriment. You have to avoid the bats in the cave and afterwards the minecarts themselves. But these next 16 tracks, in my opinion, are S-tiered or even higher than that. Yup. 16. Daisy Circuit. Easily one of the best circuit tracks ever made. In this instance, a simple track doesn't mean it has to be lower in the list. I excuse its simplicity due to the vibes it brings to the table. I love the Evening Harbour aesthetic, and I like the shortcut here. It's not obvious at first sight, and you can't forget about the Luigi and Daisy statue. Overall, it's a really cozy track to race in. 15. Delfino Square. Another chill track. This one, however, has a massive jump, and that alone makes it land on the better half of this list. This one shares much the same traits as Daisy Circuit, but aside from that, you can drive around the plaza, market, neighbourhood while taking sharp turns. Also, the shortcut that sends you in the air into the port is one of the most fun to perform in this game. 14. Peach Gardens. Don't let its pleasant look and ambience fool you, because it can be quite tricky. There are chain chomps bouncing around the fountain and maze section that can wreck you, as well as Monty moles popping out the ground. Taking the most efficient path in the maze section will be difficult, and it will force you to take different routes each time. And there are plenty of flower patches sparse around the track that can be used as shortcuts with the use of mushrooms. 13. Moonview Highway. One of the most chaotic tracks in Mario Kart history. First, you must avoid the vehicles on the sides of the road, either by going in the middle of the road or ascending the huge mountains on both sides of the road, and then jump while also avoiding falling into the forest out of bounds. And after going through the bridge and going through the toll booth, you must run for dear life, using boost panels to increase your speed without getting run over by the cars, while everything takes place in this huge bustling city. And the music. Oh, the music! Mario Kart 8 probably has the better song out of the two, but both of them are absolute bops. 12. Mushroom Gorge, another banger track. This one is all about those mushrooms that bounce, and this concept is used to the fullest of its potential. Firstly, you must use them to cross small gaps, and then it ramps up in difficulty as you have to traverse this crystal cave by jumping on top of a huge amount of mushrooms using different paths, and you can utilize these for traversing shortcuts. This track is an absolute classic that deserves to be in each Mario Kart after this one. 11. Dry Ruins. This one isn't as flat and boring like the rest. In this one, you traverse an extremely deadly sand path with collapsing structures that you can trick off. And due to its design, it is the most free-feeling track in the game, which can be used for huge off-road shortcuts. But right when you know what you're doing, you enter the titular ruins, and you must use the half-pipes if you don't want to slow down to a crawl. And after you complete this part, there's this room which gradually fills up with sand, making it more gradually difficult to traverse each lap. And after that, you go flying out the ruins to restart the lap. 10. N64 Bowser Castle. This is the final overall retro track in the game, and what an ending to it. The atmosphere of the track is very gloomy and dreary, and it is a very lengthy track. mostly lasting around 3 to 5 minutes, which is absolutely fine by me. You go in the castle and encounter several corridors with loads of thwomps layered around the course, and a room with a small bridge preventing you from falling into the lava, and after that, you ascend a tower only to go down, avoiding the lava geysers. Other than that, there's not much else to talk about. It's a really fantastic track, and it stood the test of time. 9. Waluigi Stadium. Not much has changed from the original rendition of this track. It is still as fun as ever to go flying in the air with these ramps. The dirt bike arena setting is really cool. It's got Waluigi in the title of the track. What's not to love? But this version has a very huge difference. It adds half pipes. This completely changes everything, and in my opinion, was a great move on the developer's side. The obstacles stayed intact and increased the already high level of craziness this track is famous for. 8. DK Mountain. This is the best retro track, no doubt. The track is quite simple. You get sent to the very top of the volcano and you've got to descend it. However, the execution is what makes this track so legendary. You get shot through a cannon and you've got to descend the volcano, trying to trick off the ramps and gain speed, avoiding the boulders, taking tight turns and jumping off into lethal ridges, and then finally go through the deadly bridge, which is a prime spot to get Mario Karted if you know what I mean. This track is a legendary classic, and if I'm so positive towards this track, then get prepared for the next 7, which I'd consider some of the best tracks in the racing genre. 7. Toad's Factory. Just have a think what we're doing here. You must go through a conveyor belt that transport wooden boxes and completely flattens them to create item boxes. And after that you jump from dock to dock while cargo is being transported. And then you go through some belts, only to then approach what I assume is an engine room, and then fly off. And after the huge jump you go from boost panel to boost panel over the mud, avoiding construction equipment. It is an absolute crime that this track hasn't been brought back. For Mushroom Cup standards, this track is madness incarnate, and I love it. 6. Bowser's Castle. This might be the best Bowser's Castle track ever created. You start by tricking into the castle doors, and then you have to drive in this wonky section, avoid some thwomps on the road, and then you have to avoid the massive blasts the mechanical Bowser shoots at you by using the half pipes, all without falling into the lava below. And then you have to avoid some more thwomps and fire in the middle of the road. And near the end, you're trying to avoid getting killed by the fire bars placed in the air, and finally avoiding the lava geysers on the ground. Everything just meshes perfectly into a crazy concoction of a track that never lets up or becomes easy in any instance. It's not just a race, it's a life or death romp around the tremendously dangerous environment that is Bowser's Castle. 5. Koopa Cape. This used to be my absolute favourite track in the game. I loved how natural the environment felt, yet it also felt epic to traverse through. You go through the sides of the cliff next to the sprawling waterfalls while tricking around, and when you reach the peak of the track, you go down the water stream, and you have so many options in terms of what path you want to choose. On the road, where you can obtain item boxes, on the stream itself to obtain more speed, or take the mushroom shortcuts around the grass, only for the 3 paths to collide in this massive drop into the aquarium, which is still as mesmerising to drive through as ever. After the drop, you're driving through the transparent tube, avoiding electric shock, and you're also receiving speed through the rushing water. What an amazing track! But there's still 4 more, the first of which being 4. Rainbow Road. This is the track to end all tracks, an amazing send-off and finale to this game. It has everything a final track needs: brutally difficult level design, over-the-top set pieces, and speed. Lots of speed. You go through space, encountering borderline 90-degree slopes, humongous jumps, star launchers, road where you're forced to jump off half pipes, more boost panels in space, and an amazing OST to boot. 3. DK Summit / DK Snowboard Cross. You may think this track was going to be lower than DK Mountain, however I have to vehemently disagree with that. You get barreled near the top of the mountain, and you can make the maddest of jumps without a care in the world through its half pipes and boosted ramps, and then you descend even further down the bumps. And if you're good at the game, unlike me, the skips you can take could be huge. The final section incentivizes you to use the half pipes to avoid both the snow and the snowboarding Shy Guys. This track is truly epic. 2. Maple Treeway. You get to race and climb a huge tree system in the autumn season, or fall for the fellow Americans. You get barreled to a huge tree. Do you see a pattern? Then you've got to traverse its crazy turns and then avoid the winds. Do a couple of more tricks, and you can't forget about the Jack Off Bridge. This track looks absolutely stellar. 1.
You just got coconut balled.
Do I need to say more? Even if you never played this game or have no interest towards Nintendo, you most likely heard or know about this track. It's perfect. You go through a mall, which is such a deranged idea. That would work perfectly in Mario Kart. Even from the beginning, you must take the right escalators, and then you've got so many paths to choose, like here, or down there, and either jump into the fountain or continue through the off-road path. And here in the roofless bit, you've got so many paths with their pros and cons. You can't forget about the huge jump you can take from the roof all the way to the parking spot, where you've got to avoid the terrible Mii drivers trying to park. But the most iconic part is obviously the music. Without the music, Coconut Mall wouldn't be Coconut Mall. Now that's great and all, but why can't I play as my boy Wiggler?